All right, in this video, I'm going to show why the Indian in Canada driving situation is worse than we thought. It's scarier than we thought, certainly scarier than almost you can imagine. And this is going to be a good one. I did a lot of research on this. I will link to my video from yesterday, which has like 60,000 views already and a ton of comments about the scam trucking schools that have been started in Canada. But this one I'm going to go to like some schools in Canada that are not scams technically, but I'm going to show culturally what the issue is and why we need to shine a light on this. This is not to, be racist to anybody. It's just to look at the truth. I want comments from real truck drivers, from anyone from anywhere, like polite but thoughtful comments. So anyway, let's get into this. First, let's set the scene. So I looked at some just driving on Indian roads, and I've traveled a lot, so I know what it's like. Driving can be very different in different cultures, but let's just watch a few clips here, and then we'll talk about the culture and then look at the. So obviously this is sort of what you're dealing with when you're driving. Okay. You can tell like this would not resemble anywhere in Canada, Western country. I've seen this kind of thing in different countries, not just India. So you're getting the feel. There's just a few minutes here. Now, the guy making this video would be so easy to make because you just drive on any major street and it's like this 100% of the time. The guy's smoking on the back here. I mean, it goes on. It's like just that's imagine, being from a place where that's the culture of driving and that's how, thoughtful they are in terms of like road safety. It's certainly not a Canadian style thing. I've traveled to a lot of countries. It's fun. I drive motorbikes when I go there, little scooters like this, but some places are very dangerous. Certainly it doesn't fit into the Canadian style of driving. I can't wait to get into the next part on schools, but let's watch this. Look at this trucking here in India.
Killer Road deep in the Himalayas is one of the most dangerous in the world. One reckless turn could send drivers hurtling down nearly 11,000 feet.
अगर आप मौत से डरते हो तो आपको ट्रक ड्राइविंग तो क्या आपको ट्रक पे बैठना भी चाहिए आने दो क्योंकि यहाँ पे मौत किसी भी टाइम किसी भी पल.
Like imagine this road being allowed in Canada for
one.
Still, every summer, Ankur Rawat makes several trips, delivering basic supplies to remote villages along this perilous route. It connects the rest of India to the isolated region of Pangi Valley, which is cut off for nearly 6 months of the year because of heavy snow.
ये तो सर इनकी लाइफलाइन है. अगर फूड ही नहीं यहाँ पहुँचेगा तो कैसे सर्वाइव कर पाएंगे?
But sometimes trucks break down along the way, leaving drivers stranded for days. So, what does it take to navigate these heavy-duty trucks on this deadly path? We rode along with Anku through the mountains for 3 days to find out. Anku lives in the village of Palhoon with his wife Sabita and their children. He never really knows what the weather will be, so he packs plenty of blankets. They sit down for a family dinner before Anku sets off. He first picks up the truck from a private parking lot that rents them out. This one has a power steering and a 5600cc engine, ideal for driving through the mountains.
जितने भी हम ट्रक ड्राइवर होते हैं ना, हमारी सबकी मोड़नी होती है गाड़ी. ये सबकी मोड़नी होती है. ये हमारी जान होती है. मुझे अपने घर का उतना पता है जितना मुझे गाड़ी के कोने-कोने का पता है।
Anku will make a few pit stops on this 107-mile journey. First, he'll travel about 10 miles from his home to a warehouse in Chamba, provided by the government to sustain India's most isolated regions. His truck can carry up to along the way.
तो मेरा तो बस ये ज़िंदगी में एक ही मकसद है कि मालिक सही सलामत रखे और मैं मेरे परिवार को मेरी ज़रूरत है।
The truck can hold up to 250 liters of diesel.
Now, look, I'm not showing you this to make fun of anyone at all. Okay, this guy's doing a noble thing. He's sending supplies up to remote villages that would not otherwise get it. I would not want to do that. It'd be very scary driving on those roads. I'm showing you this to sort of set the scene for, like, imagine if this is a culture of driving and how the roads are and how everything is, and then coming straight into Canada and needing to make money for your family and doing it in trucking. The cultural difference is so big that we need to address that and say, like, okay, they need extra training. Like, it will be very difficult to go from that to what we're expecting, just because that's what they're used to, not because they're bad people, just that's what they've had. So you can get a look at, think about that. Now look at this. So here's what I did. Now this gets interesting here. I went on Google and I just searched, like, basically for any truck driving school. The first one that I could find in Brampton, Ontario, which has like the highest Indian population. And I just clicked on it to look at the website and get an idea. So this is not one that's taken down. Maybe it's a great school. I don't know. But I just want to compare the mentality to the first one I found that's been there for a while out in Edmonton, where it would be, it's been there for 18 years. And it, just to get the different flavor. So like a newer one that would be set up by people from South Asia here versus an older, you know, typically Canadian one, for lack of a better term. So when I'm on this website, I'm looking at the driving training programs and it says, they're advertising it, right? Why choose A1 transportation? Financial growth, new possibilities, job opportunities, tuition. And I'm noticing it's not really saying anything about safety. And I just found that strange. Not that I've always been looking at, truck driving schools, but I remember even from doing my road test in, when would that have been, like 1995 or something, they made such a big deal about safety. If you don't stop at the stop sign completely, just in a car, or if you, I don't mean stop at all, I mean right, like to a full 100% stop, so the car kind of kicks back even if you're going slow when no one's around right at that line, or you don't have your hands at 10 and 2, they used to call it, your eyes straight on the road, or like if you start the car without the seatbelt on, they'd lose their mind. You'd fail your test and everything. It was just so focused on safety, defensive driving. I'm looking at here like South Asians passing it, whatever. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But I'm noticing, okay, that's what they're saying, not really talking about safety. I click on one of the articles. They have how A1 transportation helps you pass the license in the first try. And then I started thinking, like, you're driving a truck. That's not what you're supposed to care about. You're supposed to care about being good enough at driving super safe that you can actually take this thing on the road, not like what's the trick to pass it on the first try. And it seems like the whole thing's focused on, we'll get you a job, we'll get you up and running quickly, we'll help you pass on the first try. And I'm not seeing them mention safety. Maybe it's somewhere, but it's buried. Okay. And then I go to this Maple Truck Driving, and I don't know, or training.com. It's from Edmonton, Canada. It's been there for 18 years. And I scroll down the website, and very quickly, you find out safety first in truck driver training in Edmonton. Safety is paramount in truck driving. Our truck driver training emphasizes safe driving practices and cultivates a sense of responsibility in our students. From understanding ABS brakes to mastering defensive driving techniques. So this is like the boring but super safe ways of driving. So going extra slow, keeping more space, and you can imagine if there ever was an accident, could I get out of the way? What if someone else is a terrible driver? Can I give so much space that I could get out of it no matter what? These are like defensive driving techniques. And they're sort of ingrained in us as kids. Like I went to just driving school for driving a car, but if I went to truck driving school, I would have that sort of culturally ingrained, right? And you're talking about safety, 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 and how much load you put in the truck, and like how to make sure things don't fly off, and how to check your mirrors, and how to make sure that the wheels don't fly off and hit somebody. And there's a million things to do with that. All right. And I look at the testimonials, and it's mostly like, typically, I don't want to say white names, but you get the idea. It's really got nothing to do with race. Okay. It has nothing to do with it, but it does have a lot to do with culture, like where you're from. So if you grew up here and you went to school here for driving training as a kid, like when you're 16, you get the idea of, like, it's not like these videos that I showed, right? That's not representative of what we're dealing with. And you wouldn't get your driving teacher saying, "Hey, here's like a trick to pass the test quickly. Oh, don't worry about that. Here's like," it would all be just really saying, make sure your hands are in the right spot, make sure your eyes are on the road at all times, make sure blah blah blah. And it's just like they go crazy with safety. And then you'd think to do truck driving, you would scale it up so much more, because these things are way heavier. You're carrying heavy stuff, dangerous stuff, stuff that can fly out. Your visibility is worse. Even with a car, they'd say, like, don't make unnecessary lane changes. Stay in the middle of the lane. If you don't have to move over, don't. Just stay in one lane. Don't stay in the passing lane the whole time. Keep your distance. So it's not swerving around and looking at shortcuts and this and that. So even if you don't have a scam school technically where you're cheating, like the other ones where I showed in the CBC, I'm going to link to that video in the first comment. But just culturally looking at it, and then culturally how it can kind of set and make its way in even a technically quote unquote legal school. I guess my point is, we have to be honest about safety. And then the question is, can you take someone who's like already an adult who didn't have that upbringing? Can you just throw them into a school started by other people from that area who seem to be in general looking for shortcut ways of doing things? And I wouldn't be making videos on this if, like, I wasn't noticing it, not only on like terrible stories like the hockey crash or other crashes that you see, but just like I said in the other video, noticing it driving in North Toronto. Like seeing cars swerve or trucks swerving like crazy, and just stuff I haven't seen in the past, where it's obviously just horrible safety driving. And then like looking at who's driving it and just sort of putting two and two together, then taking a step back, looking at this, looking at the schools, looking at what's getting canceled, looking at what the culture of driving is, and sort of thinking it's such an important issue. And it wouldn't be, see, this wouldn't even be just trucks. This would have to go to medical, right? You'd have to look at the culture of medical practice before bringing it in. Again, it's got nothing to do with who was born here, who grew up here for the most of it, to get into like the Canadian, North American, whatever ways of doing things. But when you're looking at safety, important things, we need to have a conversation about what is going on, not overemphasizing like who's going to have their feelings hurt, but really just forcing, hey, this is what we do here. This is how we have to do it here in the nicest way possible. That's fine. But I don't know. I think it's a serious issue. I'd love to hear from fellow truckers again. I shouldn't say fellow trucker. I'm not a trucker, but truckers people who drive the truck that know way more than I do, but just what you're experiencing, what you've noticed, what other people have noticed. Did I get anything wrong in this? Um, anyway, I'm just curious. This is kind of my thoughts on this. Love to hear what you think as always, and we'll see you in the next video.